2, 1, and live. Today, George, in Brighton, the weather is so bad, but so bad, so cold and windy. And as we were talking before, I got some friends calling me and say, Monty, why are you not coming to do a little swim in the sea? I mean, it's like unbelievable.
But this is the perfect weather, I think, to be in nature. You know, I think the rain and the cold, it's actually interesting because you mentioned off camera, you mentioned Wim Hof, you know, it's something that I'm interested in as well. And, you know, in the last 2 years during this pandemic, I've recreated, you know, it's reconnected with nature in such a beautiful way. So I get it totally. It's like, you know, I love to go outside and stand in the rain because now I can have a totally different relationship with the rain because you see it for what it is.
It is. It's fantastic. I've interviewed Wim Hof. It's like a crazy. He does crazy things. And yesterday, you know what? Yesterday I've interviewed 2 super experts about longevity. And I asked them, because I turned 50 this year, so I have to be fit for 50. And I asked them, I say, look, what are the main takeaways, you know, to live longer in a good way, not, you know, that you just live long, but you are sad and you are sick, you know, like live long and good. And they said cold. So they use like this full cryotherapy chamber where you go in and you get frozen. Diet, of course, like a good diet for you. And, you know, your mental health, because you can, you know, eat very well and be in the cold, but then you are sad and cross all the time. It's not good. So that's it. And they say the problem is that people, they don't do it. So that's a problem.
Well, it's always good to have that reconfirmed. But, you know, I think the last 2 years has really given us a lot of space in order to look at all of those things, you know, to question who you are, you know, your relationships. Are you married?
Yeah. I'm married. Yeah, 4 kids. I go from 7 to 22. I mean, I'm officially old now. You see, like
I'm older than you, so I'm older than you. So I'm not going to listen to that. I'm 60, so I'm not listening to that.
You are amazing. So you have a longevity trick there. Both professionally, you have an incredible longevity. Your career is so long, and also personally. Are you doing anything specific? You're doing cold exposure or any particular stuff?
I mean, obviously, I eat very clean. You know, when I hear people, I'm not a strict vegan, but I eat a lot of vegetables, basically. Vegetables are, veganism has always existed. It's vegetables. You know, it's like, but I think that also, I think being interested in what you do, you know, listen, you know, I have an amazing, I don't even want to call it a job because doing what I do is almost a compulsion, you know, to create. So when you enjoy what you do, and I think as I've got older, I just enjoy it more, you know, because I stopped kind of, you know, analyzing it. I think when you get famous, fame becomes a massive distraction. Being famous becomes a job on its own. It separates you a lot of the time from what you want to actually do and what you want to actually say, because, you know, it becomes about surviving, working, touring. And I feel the last 2 years have just been this amazing space to kind of go, you know, hold on a second. What do I want to say? What do I care about? And actually, surprisingly, some of the things that I still care about are the things that I cared about in 1982 when I started. So really, I've just gone full circle into kind of understanding that, I suppose, number one, I like myself more than I used to. And I love what I do in a way that, you know, that is, it's mind-blowing to me now, because I think, why do I get so much pleasure out of creating now? You know, maybe I just didn't analyze it before, you know, but now I just feel like I just enjoy it in a way that is different.
Got it. And it's true that you have like written like, I don't know, 60 songs, 90 songs. I read the crazy number. I thought, no,
more
that's
than
fake.
that. That's not, I mean, no, I've gone far beyond that now. I've gone far beyond that because I just started, again, one of the great gifts of the last 2 years has been the space to actually fully concentrate on writing and, you know, sort of creating things. And, you know, when you're fitting in the creative process around touring and gigging and playing, you know, it definitely, it becomes more difficult. And I think having this space to really focus on those things has been a gift. I mean, I think in the future I will make sure that I make space to be creative, that it's not something I just fit in alongside what I'm doing, because everything comes from creativity. Everything that I have comes from the chaos that I create. So my manager might turn around and say, "You're doing too much art. You're writing too many songs." I'm like, well, you know, I follow the kind of Andy Warhol approach. Just keep doing it, and eventually something will resonate, or it will take you over here. You know, I just feel like, you know, a lot of spiritual people talk about the journey being the most important part of anything. You know, making the meal, creating the piece of art, you know, deciding on what you're going to do in a music set. That's the fun bit, and then doing it, physically doing it. And then when it's done, you want to do something else. It's like, okay, that's great. So, you know, for me, rock and roll, if you want to call it that, for me, it's become too explained. Rock and roll has become just so on the nose. You know, everybody knows everything about how to make a record. Everybody knows everything about everything. And it's, for me, just feels like there's nowhere to go with that. And so one of the reasons why I've been releasing records all the time without even telling people, I don't even say, I think I put 7 records out last week. I don't say, oh, I've got records out. I mentioned it to It Matters. But
so you just came up like that and say, look, there are 7 records. Here it is. That's it.
I get them on Spotify. I have my own label, and I just put them up when I feel like it. And then, you know, people react in different ways. But if I think about some of the music that how I discovered certain bands and artists wasn't through the radio or through the TV. Often it was through someone cool in their bedroom. They say, "Have you heard this band?" And you say, "No, who is this band?" And, you know, it's all about that excitement. So I just feel like at the moment I'm doing a lot of things that are kind of against the normal rules of what you should do. But and that's always been my thing.
I love this approach of yours. I was chatting with a friend, and he said, "Oh, who are you interviewing today?" And every day I have, I don't know, 4 or 5 chat. And every time there is never a reaction. Usually I can say, you know, I've interviewed Jeff Bezos, Matthew McConaughey. There is never a reaction. Then I say Boy George. It was like, oh my God, Boy George, you know. But on one side, and he say, oh, he's a legend like that. But when someone say a legend, to me smells about the past. You know, he's a legend. So that's it. You know, it's in the past. What I see, I mean, I don't know you, but from what I see, how you move, how you're doing also now with your NFTs, I really see you trying to reinvent yourself, keep doing it, living in the present, and try to come up with new stuff. So that's incredible, because I also believe that this is probably the best moment for your career, because you have all the experience, the technology that you can have direct contact with the fans. So I'm really curious to see what are your next, you know, 100 years, because with longevity there would be a long life.
I'm interested in not necessarily transcending people's ideas of what I am, but you know, I've been following this thing for the last 2 years called the 3 Principles, which is mind, thought, and consciousness. It's along what we've been talking about with Wim Hof, but it's really about ownership of what you feel and think on a minute-to-minute basis. You know, like, we all have these narratives about who we are, and when you're famous, these narratives often get put on you from the outside, and people say, oh, you're a legend, you exist in past contexts. And of course, I think that's one of the reasons why I like to be in the stink of everything and be sort of a little bit ahead of what people think, because really the person you want to surprise the most is yourself. You know, because often, you know, a lot of people out there, you know, they have to be told what they like. They have to be led to a certain thing. And, you know, I suppose being an outsider, I've always been outside anyway. So I'm kind of just doing my thing over here, and sometimes it resonates and sometimes it doesn't. But I think the fascinating thing is to kind of explore what you're capable of, rather than worrying too much about, oh, what will someone else think if I do this? You know, it's almost like, you know, rules are made to be broken. That's the whole point of them. Otherwise, nothing ever changes, you know.
And is your creative process going like on a daily basis in a different way, so that you say, all right, I feel about music today, and you write, or I feel about painting, I feel about theater, or is something that you try to structure somehow so that creativity can express itself? How does it work?
I think other people structure it. You know, I think other people come in and say, oh, let's try and do this. But I'm always driven by the idea, you know, and there will be many times when I'm working on something and, you know, sometimes it's like a virtual piece of art. I'll be like, what am I doing? Like, what? Let me show you something that I've been working on. It's kind of insane.
What is it? Okay.
And like it's wild. So like when you get the shadows on it, you can move around and create this. It's not finished yet. Obviously, it's I'm gonna give him the most luxurious lining, like in Monty. You know, he's this guy who can't find his wallet after the dinner. You know, I kind of just try things and experiment in the moment. And, you know, obviously you're always, when it comes to creativity, I kind of look at the world as this massive pantry. You know, if you're cooking a meal, there's this huge pantry. You'll understand this as an Italian because of the importance of food, you know. So you go in the pantry and it's just got this wealth of ingredients. And I think, I always feel like everything exists already. All noises, all sounds, all shapes, you know, all colors exist. How you put them together is what makes it unique. So if you remove the person's intention or what they're trying to actually get out of it, then that's what, you know, that's a secret ingredient that nobody can manufacture or really tell you what it is. I suppose in a way it's a bit like existence. You know, like someone like Eckhart Tolle would say, go out and look at, if you want to see how small you are, go and look at the sky. You know, and so, you know, accepting that things influence you, I think, is the honest approach. Don't pretend that you're not influenced by people, because that's bullshit. You know, if somebody says, oh, your work's like a little bit Basquiat, I'm like, yeah, that's a compliment. I don't take that as an insult. You know, that's because I love what he does. And so, you know, the things, I feel like as I've got older, my influences have become much more obvious. But, you know, once you've accepted something, then you get a freedom. And, you know, you'll always end up doing something that's unique to you because of you and because of how you are in the world and how other people treat you. And the fact that people say, oh, you're a legend, like that's almost like an introduction. You're a legend. Okay, and, you know, that's not interesting.
Yeah, sort of play the game of yourself. I like this this phrase. Yeah, absolutely. And are you, in your creativity, I don't know how to say in English. My English is so rubbish, even after 10 years. You know, my wife is British and I live in Brighton and I still can't speak English. It's like creativity. You know, I have some moments of the day that I can speak and other moments I can't speak. But anyway, is your creativity a solo process, or like you like to work in a team and say, all right, guys, I don't know, music, and you have some...
I have people that work with me, you know, like I have creative people that work with me. But yeah, I think I think bouncing off other people is exciting, but somebody always has to be in control, and that's usually me. Yeah. So I like that idea, but no, you know, like one of the things, you know, people often say, oh, shall I ask someone what they think of this? And I always say, no, don't ask them what they think of it, because it's not going to make any difference to what I do. So it's almost like, you know, I don't like that thing of what do you think of this? It's like, that's not the question I want answered. How does it make you feel is more interesting to me than what do you think? Because the minute you know, like having been in a very successful band for many years, you go into an A&R meeting with the record company, you play a song, and everybody feels so uncomfortable because they have to think of something to say. Yeah. And, you know, they don't have the experience that you have with this piece of music. So they say something really inappropriate. Like, oh, it's quite slow. Or is it going to stay like that? You know, so for me, you know, I guess I have to be my own boss, you know, and this is one of the great things about being self-employed You know, I don't have a kind of, I don't rely on nostalgia for my existence. It's there in the background. I'm not ashamed of what I've created. I love, you know, to me, Boy George 1984 is the fictional kind of cartoon character. Hence, my freedom to paint him and treat him like he's someone else, because, you know, I'm not that person. You know, I'm not detached from that person. But you know, I wasn't. I also look back and think, I wasn't really that person then. Why did people think, why did people think so many weird things, you know? So yeah, I feel like I'm my own boss. I decide ultimately what I create, and then I'm, you know, I can't blame anybody else if it goes wrong.
Got it. And I think is very different now, comparing with the 80s when you started, where maybe a recording label got full control, also because, you know, that was a different historical period and technology was not there, so you had to go through the system to get.
I call it the approval process, which
right.
is why it's interesting. I mean, ultimately, you know, when we do what we do, you know, we're performers. You know, you're a performer, I'm a performer. You know, you want people to like what you do.
I'm a bold performer, George, but okay.
But you know, Monty, you have to engage people, otherwise they're not going to come back.
Yeah.
So they have to like you, you know, and sometimes there's no way of explaining that to the person watching. You know, we all do that thing where we see an artist and we go, I just like this person. I don't know why. You know, I like this work. So ultimately, you know, you're always kind of rediscovering who you are as a public performer. But nostalgia for me is, it's handy. You know, but it's so misunderstood. I write a lot about it. You know, nostalgia is a racket. I write a lot of lyrics about, you know, sort of reclaiming people, your idea of who you think you are. And again, it falls into this surprising thing, because people definitely think, oh, you're this. Yeah,
Right.
you're Boy George, you know, from this period, and you sang Karma Chameleon. You have no idea how much music I've made in the last 30 years. And I've had bands, you know, I've toured in Italy as a DJ, very successful DJing career. In fact, there were people when I was DJing that only knew me as a DJ.
Yeah.
So they were like, what do you mean you're Boy George from the 80s? I'll be like, yeah, I'm that one as well, you know. So, you know, many lives, many careers. And I sort of do it all still. You know, I still do it. I started off as a DJ in the late 70s, and then kind of became a musician, and then went back to DJing when Acid House started. And I remember at the time, very similar to the NFT thing, where my manager at the time said, oh, you shouldn't be DJing. Your Boy
Right.
George. And I said, no, I should totally be DJing, because that's where the universe is right now. And look what a massive thing it became. So that's how I feel about the NFT thing as well. I feel like, you know, and people go, oh, why are you doing that? I'm like, why not? You know, because it feels like it has infinite possibilities. And, you know, I've been talking to people the last couple of weeks about, wouldn't it be interesting to maybe do an album that was an NFT, that, you know, one person owns it or a bunch of people own it, or maybe there's a particular mix of something that, you know, you hide. One of the things I want to do is maybe hide some stuff in the NFT. So like you get 5 minutes of silence, and then you go to make a cup of tea, and then suddenly you hear the new album. Like, what the fuck? You know, and you know, you paid $300 for it. It's nothing. I feel like there's an element of surprise in this. And again, when we talked about the system of removing some of that control from other people, of course, there's always control in creativity. You know, if you go to a gallery, you've got to deal with that aspect. But there's something about this that feels quite freeing and anarchic at this point. Let's see where it goes.
How it evolves. Go one step back and tell me, when did you start to understand about NFTs or hear about NFTs? When did you start to be interested in this? I
kept hearing the words. First of all, I have a very good friend who's been into cryptocurrency for years and was driving me insane about that. And I was like, it sounds so fascinating. But I think the NFT thing, because it's art and because it's about creativity, that was so much more attractive to me, because it's like, oh, it's a way of making people see things and hear things and experience things in a different way. And that is exciting because, you know, having the kind of legendary status can be as much of a hindrance as it can be a help, you know, because people stick you in a certain box, if you like, and you go, well, no, that's not who I am. I'm this as well. And so I feel like for me, once I saw this as a kind of another way of kind of bringing your poison, you know, your creativity to more people, and also having a relationship with those people as well, you know, it's an interesting concept. And I'm very interested in it from the point of a songwriter, because I write a lot of songs. And I do see that in the same way as I do creating a piece of art. It's noises and words and sounds, and all these things exist, and it's about how you put them together. You know, that's what makes it special. That's what makes it unique for me. So yeah, the ideas are what get me out of bed.
I love it. I think also that it takes courage to do NFTs in this moment, because there is still a lot of confusion, and there are countries. I mean, I launched my NFT, which is not an artistic one, but is a utility NFT. And what I notice is that there is so much confusion, and people are really like, it's like a religion. People say, NFT is bad, or NFT is good, or, you know, so it's incredible. And I think it's just a piece of software. You can, you know, do a lot of things. And, but I don't know what's the feedback around you in the artistic world or in the music world. How are NFTs seen? Or when you said, I'm going to do an NFT, what was the reaction?
People, again, I think, don't understand what it is anyway. And I completely don't fully understand what it is either. You know, I understand aspects of it. I always think it's quite important if you don't. But as I said, I started this conversation talking about how I feel rock and roll has become so over-explained. I feel like everything is just so explained now. And that isn't why I got into music. I don't want to live in an explained world. So there's something about this kind of digital NFT thing that feels slightly out of my depth, you know, and I don't know where it will end up. And, you know, I just have these crazy ideas, particularly around the music thing. This could be an amazing way to get music out there, to get people to hear meditation, to hear spiritual message. Who knows? You know, it's I feel like we got this, you know, the internet, you know, is this incredible sort of electronic garden fence where we can all hang over, you know, and talk about each other and share ideas. And are we using it to its full potential? You know what I mean? There's so many great things. You know, you hear a lot of people talking about, you know, sort of negative aspects of the digital world. Yep. But the fact is, we all live in the digital world. You know, when we lose our phones or our internet goes down, we are fucked. We cease to exist. So, you know, even someone like me who likes to kid myself that I'm not addicted to the internet and I can take it or leave it, like it's like a lover that I can see on Fridays. I'm absolutely controlled by the digital world, but I enjoy it. I don't see it as a hindrance. I like it. I like the fact that I can send things to people and communicate with people I've never met, and, you know, share ideas with them and cut out the middleman.
Right.
The system, what we call the matrix, you know, cut that out a little bit. I mean, it's always there, but cut it out a little bit and just go, I don't need your permission to do this, you know?
Yeah. I love that. I think also we're stepping probably out of the creator economy where, you know, an artist or a creator online is basically in the hands of these big tech platforms, or I don't know, Spotify is paying 0.0000000 minus 1% to artists. And with NFTs, you get back this ownership economy where is your direct relationship with the community. And I think also they are much more involved because they invest in a project. They become very active, not only for a financial point of view, but because they are part of something and they maybe can help they contribute to create the project together with the artist. So I think is a fantastic new scenario, and at least is a better option, is another new option for artists and creators out there, instead of going through a middleman that decide and say, no, Yes, why has to be like that?
Well, I feel sometimes, the sort of creative world, particularly the rock and roll world, seems totally like organized, and you can only do this if you follow these rules, and if you sound like this, you're going to get played on the radio. And I think similarly with the art world, there was a lot of snobbery around art. Historically, you can't be part of this because you don't understand it, and you just don't have the intellect for this. And one of the great things about sort of modern art, subversive art, outsider art, is that it kind of almost pokes the finger at classic ways of doing things, in the same way that punk rock put a finger up to, the sort of idea of being on the road for 10 years before anyone knew who you were, building up your audience suddenly, and I was part of that generation, the video generation, where when we started Culture Club, suddenly we could just send a video to America that was going to be on TV all the time, and everyone in America knew about me without any of the sort of usual rules of I should go out on the road. People say you're not credible if you don't go out and pay your dues and all of that. So I always feel like these things are kind of just getting back to the really important thing of what's the idea and what's the message, and you want people to see it. And none of us have got any patience anymore. The internet has taken away our patience. It's like, I can send this to you now. I can give you my new album immediately. You don't need to wait. And also, sometimes when you wait, it's really disappointing. It's that, my album's coming out in June, and then you get it and you go, you should have put it out last year.
That's true. Imagine if Twitter was designed in a different way, where you can only tweet stuff that are 20 pages long, and when you swipe, it goes very slow because you have to really read. It would be a different world. But now, it's fast. It's everything about fast. And how do you cope with that? Because I have a few millions people community, and gosh, it's really brutal every day.
I don't know how people can live without me. I mean, all the people that aren't following me, they must be so disappointed. But I just think the trick is not to take what you say. There's got to be humor in your responses. There are times when I don't get a lot of trolls. I'm so surprised more people don't hate me. I'm like, what do I have to do? Either that I just don't see it, or I don't know, I just don't engage it. I don't have that energy that says attack me, call me names. And if somebody does, I'm like, you're boring. I don't want to talk with you. I'm blocking you because you bring nothing. But if you come at me with a funny line and something that make me laugh, I will follow you all day long. But I feel like humor, it's just, it's a fascinating thing when people tweet things sometimes, even though it's, just a few characters, there is an energy to people's tweets. You can really tell a lot about somebody, from what they say. And, some people are brilliant with words. Some people just know how to say something that's so funny and profound. And I try to reply to people in a surrealist way. If someone's being nasty, I'll just think, what can I say to this person to make them laugh? It might be like, who does your hair? Tell them what I'm having for dinner. And they'll be like, what? Just to throw them off that kind of way of thinking, because we just waste a lot of time with bullshit, I think, a lot of the time.
Yeah. Let's go back to the NFT and help my community understand how will it work. So Crypto Queens is coming out on, I think, on the 1st of March, beginning of March. I know also that you'll have, how do you call it in Italian? In Italian, we call it AMA, which is Ask Me Anything, because, like Colgate instead of Colgate, REM instead of REM. So it's an AMA. You'll do an AMA on Thursday where you answer all the questions in the Discord group. What do people, do you think that, what should people expect from this NFT?
Well, they're getting my life experience. That's, totally comes through, I think, in what I do, because I've been around a long time and I've seen a lot of things. And I feel like I'm still interested. I think that's what makes a person interesting, is being still interested in what could be and what could come, So, of course, I know, like every artist, there are amazing things in the world already, like David Bowie and Picasso, and, whatever it may be. It was so many things. Pizza, it's an endless list of things. No, you know what I mean? Like great food. Great food is undeniable. Great art is undeniable. You can argue with, I just feel like I'm a curator of all my experiences. I feel like I just bring it all into what I do, and in a simplified way. When I always talk about the way I do things, I start with these very simple ideas, because me without makeup is kind of boring.
Right.
Then suddenly so every day I kind of reinvent myself with makeup, and the person that I am outside of the makeup is still the same person, but there's a confidence that comes with creating yourself, out of something. I said in my bio, I created myself in cardboard and glitter, because when I was a kid, there wasn't any money, so you just had to grab things that stuck on, and and sort of that's how you. And then suddenly everyone's like, "Oh my God, you're amazing!" And I was like, "I never knew." So I feel like I'm bringing me. I'm bringing me, whatever that means, and that can also include all the things you think about me as well. All the things that you think about what I am and what I represent. And also the kind of I think the LGBTQI plus thing is, from my perspective, it's an interesting thing, because I've lived through the animosity of all of that. I've been part of so many experiences, and there are so many things that happened when I was a kid that allowed me the freedom to be who I am. And and I think just being an outsider, I feel like it comes through in what I do, in the simplicity, because I want people to be able to imagine things as well.
Right.
I want humor. I want to come across like I'm also hiding things, because you can't know everything about me. I'm an infinite universe, just like you, right?
I like it. I mean, that's exciting. I always said this feeling about you. You never know. You never know what will happen, with Boy George. That was always my feeling. You can change from one second to another. And I think that's the reason of your incredible success. And the image is Carmen, right? The image of this collection.
Yes. It's basically a sort of simplification of, it's like, I always think of it as like me before I put on my makeup, or any woman, the woman before she gets dressed, it's like, it's that process of like, when I'm working on whether it's a digital piece or a real virtual piece that you can touch, it develops as I'm going along. It starts off as being almost ridiculous. There's almost like oh my God, this isn't allowed. And then you start working on it, and then suddenly it has a personality, and suddenly it develops a kind of soul, and I think some people look at digital work and say, well, it has no soul.
Right.
But I think it does. I think if you start with the person's intention, who they are, what they're about, what they feel, what they still feel, I think it has to come through what you do. Otherwise anyone could do it. And I think art is about audacity. Art is about absolute audacity. And, every so often something comes along and you go, that's ridiculous, but you can't stop staring at it.
Yeah.
That's the stuff I want to create, where somebody who goes, it's like the classic Tracy Emin story, anyone could have done that bed. And she said, yeah, but I did it.
Yeah.
And I love that. It's I think that's a great message,
And I saw you also, you also done one specific about Aoki, right?
Yes,
You also
yes.
I haven't seen. I haven't seen mine yet, so I hope it's coming out. I'm confident you'll draw like a bald scarf, but okay, I think it's better.
No, I could do. Yeah, definitely. You know, you always have to have an interesting face, and you've got an interesting face, you know.
But,
So
like a big
Steve,
nose. Yeah.
I love a big nose. It's
Oh
the
my
best, you know. It's the best, you know. That's what we call strong features.
Right.
No, I feel like whenever I draw someone, it's like sometimes I'm like, I never thought about that. Actually, and then you start playing around with a person's image, and then you see actually how strong someone like Steve has got this very strong image, you know, where you have to be very careful that you don't caricature it. And you have to capture it and what it represents. And, you know, most of the drawings that I do are not of people. I'm not trying to make, you know, if I do a picture of someone, normally I'm quite cruel.
Right.
You know, as I say, because now I've met you and I know you're quite sensitive, I won't give you a massive big nose.
Please don't. Or just put the on my face and that's it. It's easier.
But the thing is, you know, a person's characteristics, like there are a lot of people that you meet in the life and you think, oh, that I would love to paint that person because their faces just looks like it should be in a painting. Yeah. And lots of other people that you just want to stare at because they're beautiful, but you don't particularly want to paint them, you know, so yeah, no, maybe I will do you then.
God, please don't. How long does it take for you to draw one of your painting?
I do get through a lot of versions of them, you know, like for example, the original one, Scarman. It's so simple. I must have done 600 versions, and everyone was like, "That one's good. That one's good." I was like, the only one that worked was the one that I kept. I was like, that was just something about the face. He looks like sarcastic. He looks like he's hiding something. He looks like he's a little bit, you know, it just had everything for me. So sometimes it can take all days. Sometimes it can take like seconds.
All right.
And you just, somebody's so good. And then of course it goes through the digital process. So I do it by hand. Everything's drawn by hand. Then I put it in, I photograph it. Then I put it through these different processes. Coloring things digitally is mind-blowing because you just get things that you could not get from a tin of paint. And then playing around with, you know, making things move. And, you know, there are no rules. You know, sometimes you make a mistake on something and you're, oh, it's fucking brilliant, right? How can I make that? How can I make that work? You know, and that's the constant thing. I do a lot of screaming in my house on my own. Right. I literally, like, people if you were here, you'd think I was a lunatic. I'd be like, that's so good. Oh my God. And then I want the art store to be open at 4 o'clock in the morning so I can go and get what I need. But yeah, it's impulsive. It can take minutes. It can take days. Sometimes, you know, throw a lot of things away because no.
When do you know when to stop with your painting and your music? Because I'm not an artist and I would keep going forever. I would keep saying, well, let's add this. Let's maybe a little bit more piano, a little bit more painting. When do you say, all right, that's it. It's done?
I think I'm very lucky in the sense that I'm not a trained musician. I don't play anything. So everything I do is instinctual. In the same way, when I make art, I didn't have any training. I mean, yeah, at school, obviously, art was the only thing I was any good at. It was the only thing I ever got marks for. I had work hanging up in school, even though they threw me out. I still had my work on the wall. So it's kind of like, really? Something's good about me. But, you know, I feel like as I've got older, you know, I would say Geminis don't read the manual.
Right.
You know, I'm a Gemini. We can't be bothered to read the manual. We'll just take the fucking camera, move the light, you know, go here. You know, it is kamikaze. And that is why I love modern art, because modern art is like, it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be like this because it can just be that the person's moving. So yeah, I feel like with digital art, you know, it can look flat, but it can also have kind of shadows and edges to it. And there's, you know, you can tell a lot about the person from the way that they do a digital image, you know.
Yeah.
I always think I can tell what they'd be like in bed if I see what they do.
You should launch a new website where you upload your NFT, and I'll tell you what's your sex level.
I can tell you all about yourself. No, it's I think that it's like, you know, digital music, the way that people make music now with computers and all of that. It's definitely broadened the spectrum, but you always have to come back to the artist's kind of point of view. I think that is so important, and I don't know if you could digitalize that.
Right.
But, you know, I still feel like you can try and work to put that through what you do. Just make sure that it just has enough of you, because, you know, anyone can draw anything. That's a fact. I mean, you know, it's whether you can be bothered to do it. I mean, people always say, well, that's really simple. Okay, but you do it and see if it looks like my one. Yeah. It won't. It just won't. It just won't, you know, because I don't know. I can't explain that. That's just a unique thing about your particular digital DNA.
Yeah. And what do you think when you see these NFTs around? There are apes, there are elephants, there are rats, there are every 2 seconds there is a new kind of animal, and because sometimes, I mean, I'm art ignorant, okay, so I don't know anything about art, but I speak with a lot of people, and sometimes I watch these NFTs and I think, I don't know, I can't see anything. But also, if I go to a museum, I can't see anything, you know, so I don't know.
I remember the classic. Years and years ago, when I was much younger, I remember being in an art gallery, and there was a painting that was just white. It was just a white painting. It was textured, but it was white. And I remember at the time not being able to understand it. I can say now is a very different thing, because I look outside at nature and I go, look how fucking insane that is. We're just passing that by, just what goes on under the grass, what goes on inside a tree, inside plants, inside nature, inside the weather. When you start looking at that, you know, it's kind of like psychedelic. You know, you just go, wow, we miss so much stuff, you know. And I feel like I try to bring that into what I do, you know, and just kind of an awareness. And, you know, sometimes a piece of art is about what it makes you feel. It can be as important as, you know, something being perfect. You know, if you see like like I was looking at these NFTs yesterday, these digital trees that were like just, you know, like opening up, and, you know, it was kind of meditative. I was sitting there going, this is beautiful. You know, it's just really nice. And I like the idea of, you know, these screens where the art changes all the time. Maybe you get one of the things I'm obsessed with is bringing music into that. And you can do that with an NFT. You can just put a song in there. You know, so that's one of the things we're talking about, like maybe just hiding some stuff.
I just got, while you were talking, George, a very stupid and crazy idea. Why don't you do an NFT that keep changing? It's possible to do it. And like every day, you know, if you wear like this hat, you press black hat, and if I buy that NFT, like Feel Like George, I got exactly, you know, the black hat, and tomorrow is yellow. I don't know. That's maybe a stupid idea.
I feel like these are the sort of mad conversations we have anyway, of like, well, why can't we do this? And what about this? And this would be fun. And why can't one person take this song and just go, this version is mine. Right. You know, I want it. And it, you know, as I say, I also quite like the idea of, you know, as I say, hiding things in things that you already have. Don't necessarily tell the person that there's another thing inside it, like a sort of, you know, almost like a trick, you know, where someone gets
an Easter egg.
No, maybe not an Easter egg, but like the Beatles playing the album backwards, something that's weird, you know, some weird thing. Like, did you know that was even there? Right. I feel like, you know, I feel like encouraging that sense of discovering things is fascinating and surprising people, you know, giving them more than they thought they were going to get. That's a nice idea.
Definitely. You know that when I read the news about your NFT, I wrote to your staff. By the way, they were fantastic. And at the beginning, I was a bit skeptical, because often it happens that I interview like a celebrity or a legend, you know, or these kind of words. And then I'm a bit disappointed because maybe they are only the face of a project, but they didn't really do anything. You know, they just put the face and say, "Yeah, that's my wine." No, I mean, you did not.
No. This from the beginning.
You are
when I'm
like hands-on, like they said, you are like there every day. It's
annoying. I'm
unbelievable.
annoying. I'm annoying. I'm literally like, I'm annoying because, you know, one of the things that we talk about a lot in the creative world is truth.
Right.
Everybody talks about the importance of truth. And so, you know, as long as I know something is truthful and it's come from a truthful place, then I'm happy with it being out there. But yeah, I'm not like boringly controlling. I'm not a bore. I'm not one of these like, you know, because sometimes, you know, particularly if you're writing a song and you're in a room with a bunch of people, if you stamp over everybody, you sometimes don't get what's possible. But it's not the same with art, because ultimately I have to, as the artist, I have to say, no, I absolutely love this. And this is just, yeah, I can live with this. I think that's always what I think whenever I see any kind of piece of art. Could I sit and, you know, have this in my home and live with it? And what would it make me feel? You know, maybe I have to put it in a certain room if it's a little too complicated. But I feel it's about your experience with things. That's why, like, when people get annoyed about like a pile of bricks or a toilet, you know, like Duchamp or something, really the point is what it makes you feel. If it makes you angry, if this is not art, this is not allowed, you know. I feel like it's the same with music as well, where like people hear something and they go, that's ridiculous. You can't say that. Right. And then, you know, and then they can't stop singing it. So, you know, doing the art for me is bled into what I do musically, whereas I don't have any rules about lyrics. Anything is the lyric. Anything anyone says, because that's all anyone's doing anyway. They're just grabbing words out of the air and going, oh, let me make sense of this. So I feel like, you know, there's a restriction with digital art, but there's also a freedom as well. You know, there's boundaries and there's things you can break as well. Like, okay, that works. So look at that. Let's move this. I sometimes do like what I call digital surgery on my own art, where I go, that eye is better. Put this one here. It's what people are doing every day when they go to the dirty doctor.
Right.
You know, so then you get something that's like, oh, wow, that's, you know, that's interesting. I think it's a freedom, you know.
Is it true that you have written a song about NFTs, or is fake news?
I've written a song called Egos in the Metasphere. And I got this other one. I just felt to me like something that Pink Floyd would have written in the 70s. Egos in the Metasphere. I haven't written it yet, but we've discussed it. And again, you know, it's like I've written this song called The Internet Wants My Blood, which was and it's the first video I've done where I'm singing from behind. So you can't see my face. I'm just literally singing and you can see the back of my neck. And I was like, that's kind of interesting because I'm so about the front, you know, everybody has to see me. And then suddenly it's like, am I as interesting? But, you know, I like to sing about things that are happening in my life, people that I know. Doesn't necessarily matter if you know who this person is. If I sing about Jackie, my friends, you know, it doesn't matter because there'll be other Jackies. Any Jackie can say, oh, it's me singing about me. So I feel like, you know, NFTs would be a really good thing to sing about, and digital world and all of that. You know, what is the metasphere? You know, it's imagined space, which is amazing. It's like, you know what I mean? It's kind of real estate, and you never run out of it because it's endless.
I imagine that you'll do stuff in the metaverse and probably with your NFT, also because it's a good mixing NFTs, metaverse, events, virtual events. I mean, I wonder how also like concerts will be. There are already some experiments, but when maybe technology is getting better and better, how will it work? I don't know. Do you plan any virtual concert anytime soon?
I think that there's a wonderful kind of possibility in all of this. Like, how do you, like, for example, in a pandemic, right? How do you, it's like the video thing that we go back to sort of 1983 when MTV started. In a way, that was like a massive digital experience. It's like you're bringing all this, culture and creativity to everyone's living room in the world, So it started off as this amazing idea,
Right.
and then just became a bit of a formula. And that's the fascinating thing about being involved in something at this, the birth of this LSD thing. It's quite new. So it hasn't totally been controlled by anyone yet. But because it's digital, maybe there's more holes it can go through to get away from that control. Do you understand? Because if you think, well, digital space is infinite in a way, you can just say, right, we're going to go over here. We're starting a commune. You can't come in. Ultimately, I want everyone to feel embraced. I feel like that's a really good message, and this gives us communication, this thing. It's amazing that we can, you couldn't have done this.
No.
It wasn't possible. You and I talking, it doesn't sound like a big deal. But, if you think about all the fuss that you normally, and, technology still gets in our way sometimes. It still stops things from happening. You still have to make people engage. And I don't know how you do that.
Right.
I think that's the fun bit. Like, how do you engage people in a new idea of yourself and make them realize that whatever they thought about you in the first place is completely wrong, or it was right, but there's more.
Yeah.
Just, not to take things on face value all the time.
Yeah, in a sense, we are already in a metaverse here, because I see you on the screen. Before I saw Boy George popping up, and I thought, well, so here is George. Hello, George. To me, it's like being in a movie. It's like Strange Days, the movie, or Matrix. It is like that. I was wondering, we have 3 minutes, and then I let you go. I know they're super busy, but thank you so much. And by the way,
it's been so nice. It's been so nice, and not what I expected, which is always good as well. It's like, what are we doing?
I was wondering about social media and artists. I was chatting the other day with a friend of mine, a very famous Italian singer. By the way, do you know Italian singers? Like there are some, or not, or is not your cup of tea, Italian singers?
Of course, I know some. I know like famous singers like Umberto Bindi.
Right.
What's his name? Albano.
Okay.
Things like that, and more. Obviously, what's his name? Who I love, Giovanotti.
Oh, Giovanotti! Oh, wow!
I love Giovanotti. I used to know Giovanotti in the 80s, but what he's become, in the last 20 years as an artist, his sound now, I think it's amazing. It's amazing. So yeah, but all the classics. I sing a little bit in Italian as well. So. Right. And I speak a little bit of Italian. Conosco un sacco di parole ma nulla di utile. So I understand a lot, but
your accent is fantastic. It's much better than my English. Unbelievable.
That's why when you were talking earlier, my the Italian thing is more like the classic, like Che bella cosa, that kind of thing. Il mio mondo, or I sing a lot of those songs. Yeah.
And also, opera, of course, you have a lot of Italian words and Italian. But anyway, let's take Lorenzo Giovanotti. I remember when I was chatting with him, same topic, social media. And he said, look, it's incredible. Imagine that when Elvis was alive, you had like Instagram. And every day you see Elvis, with his T-shirts, and the magic of Elvis would have disappear, because the idea was that you couldn't see. It was really like a secret hidden thing. So I don't know today.
But you could argue. You could argue and say, okay. When I was 13, I saw David Bowie, Ziggy Stardust. So for me as a teenager, that was like a sort of an explosion. But then if you're 30, 40 years later and you see Lady Gaga, it has a similar type of experience to someone that's never experienced that. So I feel like, obviously us older guys can look back and say, I think it's a good thing that there was some separation between my behavior and what was what was in the public eye. I feel like I feel very grateful that a large chunk of my existence was like, you know,
was not recorded every second.
not for public consumption. It's like, I'm really glad that there was no cameras around when I was doing this. But now I feel like, you know, it feels normal to, although people still get excited when you know, they still, you know, because everybody's there's a lot of people out there who are imagining the world they live in. It's not really what's happening. They're like, so I feel like people still get excited, and, you know, they still engage with the music and the art, and they have opinions, and they still get excited, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. Fantastic. Thank you so much for this chat. It was really a pleasure. Good luck for your NFT collection. I'll try to spread the word, and
Yes.
I hope to see you soon in Brighton.
You have to meet my friend Laura. I'm going to tell her to me. She goes, trust me. Trust me. I give you a number if you like. I'm going to tell her about you. Honestly, she's like, she lives in Brighton. She came from Australia. And she's one of those, she's just an amazing person. And honestly, I only inflict amazing people on amazing people.
Fantastic. We'll wait for you for open sea swimming in the cold water. And that will
I'm coming.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much.